understand how you can use .then method to handle results if you only expect success from your async function. Here's my boilerplate code, and we're going to go through this process together. So I want to point to the commented out part inside the script tag. So these are guides that we need to follow in order to be able to make this example together. So what we are basically trying to do is that we want to see how you can use the .then method to handle results when you are certain that the output of your process or output of your code is going to be a success. So you can skip the error part and just output the result. So let's move on and start creating the code. So the first step says create display function. Second one, create async function. Third one, create the function, use .then method, and then finally display the result. So the first thing I'm going to do in this case, according to what I have here in the comment section, is that I'm going to create my displayer function. So which is going to be responsible for displaying things. So the work of this function is just to display my function. So it will receive a parameter or rather a data in order to be able to get the result on the screen. So now that I have that, it's time to create a async function. So we create an async function calling on the async keyword, and then I'll call its name my function. And inside it will return just a simple string. I love Turkey's Rain Academy. Now, I have my async function created. So the purpose of this is to automatically return a promise as a result. So now I can move on and then call the function. And how do you call the function? Call the function name as a reference. You call the function name just as you can see on the screen, my function. Then you just add the opening and closing brackets to it. So this way you've called the function, and then the fourth instruction says use .then method. So you chain it along with the .then method, and inside that .then method you can then add other things that you want to add to your code. So in my case, I want to find a way to display value that is expected from my function. And if you see my screen, you can see it. I love Turkey's Academy. Now, what just happened? We just make a function to return a promise. Now, we make that function and converted it into a promise by implementing the use of async keyword, as you can see here on this second part. And the function here is now being passed on to the .then method, which receives the promise result. And what is the result from the promise? It is this simple text that is being returned, even though it looks like a normal value, but in the real sense, it is actually a promise. So this .then method is what receive the promise result and then display it on the screen, as you can see. Now, if you look at this code, if you look at it critically, you will notice that instead of us, we were supposed to have two things inside our .then method. The first one was supposed to be either a success or error. But with this .then method, since we are certain that our code will return a success, we just skipped that part and moved directly to how we can get the display to be on the screen. So we no longer need either the resolve or reject, the success or the error part again. We just use .then method as a shorthand in order to achieve our aim, since we only expect success as our output and as our result. Now, one important thing rather is that the .then method can accept both success and error functions. But if we only expect a successful result, we can use a simpler fashion with just one function, and that exactly is what we just demonstrated in this example. So we stick with a with just one function for a simpler fashion, since we expect a success result. So we didn't make provisions for handling rejection or error or any other thing, since we only expect a success result from our code. Key takeaways from this lesson are this. Number one, async functions returns promises. So when you have async functions, even though what they return might look like a normal value, JavaScript automatically converts them to promises. Number two, .then method handle promise result. So the .then method is responsible for handling promise result that is being passed on from an async function. .then method can be simplified. You see that we only made provision to handle our results, since we know that we are going to get a success result. And finally, we want functions handle success only. So if we want to make our code handle error, so we gracefully have to modify it in order to make provision for that. So in essence, if we only expect success as a success result, we can use a .then method to handle results without making provision or without gracefully handling error paths in our code, as you can see in this example.